One big beautiful bill is shifting some SNAP responsibility onto states. States will now be responsible for more funding, and penalties could cost Texas price tags with 9 figures. East Texas News Weekend's Katie Parker has the details.
Feeding Texas CEO Celia Cole says if a state's payment error rate is higher than 6%, they must pay 5 to 15% of SNAP benefits.
Payment errors are not intentional or fraud. They are honest mistakes made by the state or participants.
So what are payment error rates?
It reflects a combined rate of overpayments and underpayments.
Olson says these errors do not come from abusing the system, wrongful denials, or fraud. According to Feeding Texas, in 2025, less than 0.1% of Texas households committed SNAP fraud. Olson says errors can come from paying too much or too little.
They do not cancel out. You could hypothetically have like 3% overpayments and 3% underpayments, meaning that the exact right amount of dollars went out the door, and yet that would be a 6% payment error rate.
Currently, Texas's error rate is 8.32%.
And it really is a measure of accuracy. If you flip that in your mind, an 8% payment error rate is 92% accurate.
Texas would pay $709 million per year in SNAP benefits starting in October of 2027. But these rates can be reduced. That's why groups like Feeding Texas advocate for a 2-year delay from Congress.
This flexibility, it's been given to Alaska and other states that have really high error rates, and it gives them more time to get their error rates down.
Katie Parker, East Texas News Weekend.
According to Feeding Texas, before the COVID-19 pandemic, Texas's SNAP error rate was below 6%, and Feeding Texas says that they believe Texas can return to that.